So again, Chip Cooper for FTC Guardian and my partner Alan Cutts. And it's always customary for us to share a little bit with you about what we've been doing. So last week, we attended, as we told you in the last Hangout, which was the first of the month, that we were going to a major event, Content and Commerce in Orlando, Florida, which was a very short drive for me. And Alan flew in. We met there, had a great event, met a lot of people. We believe we're going to end up doing some really interesting JVs as a result of it. And somewhere along the way, I caught, sinusitis or something. I've been really under the weather since we got back. I've been taking antibiotics, but I'm fine. So, Alan, I'm going to switch to you real quick. You give a quick rundown of what we did, and then we'll get down to the presentation.
Yeah, so we went to Content and Commerce. We had a great time, 1,500 plus people there. If it's not on your calendar, you should put it on there for next year. They don't have the date exactly nailed down, but it will be in the month of September. They're expecting next year probably closer to 2,000, maybe 2,500 people. It was a great event, and we gave out a lot of our Cover Your Butt Rub, which was very cool. A lot of people really liked it, and it was probably the premier giveaway that everybody was talking about, because it really tied into what we do and everything else, and everybody liked talking about barbecue and stuff like that. So anyway, it was great. We'll be there hopefully next year. We'll be at what's the one we're doing in March?
Okay, well, I'm going to take it back just so you're really. I was listening carefully to what Alan said. He said, "Cover your butt rub," and then later he said, "Barbecue." So, yeah. So it's not stuff you're supposed to rub on your butt. Yeah. You rub on your barbecue pork butt, or your ribs, or whatever you're doing. And we did have one woman, believe it or not, who came by our booth and picked one up, and we told her, it's not for your butt, it's for barbecue. And she, I think I'll have my boyfriend rub it on my butt. That's fine. That's fine. I don't want to hear any more about that. But anyway, we had a great time, and the barbecue Cover Your Butt tie-in was a great tie-in that Alan came up with, and it was very successful. We had a great time. So now I think, without any further introduction, let's get started. And can you see the screen, Alan?
Yes. Okay,
so that is the title slide. And this case name has always intrigued me a little bit, the jerk case by the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC wins a case based on fake UGC, which is an acronym for user-generated content. And the one thing I think that's really the reason why we've chosen this case for the discussion is, for some reason, we just like the name jerk. It was interesting. But this idea of the net impression is, I think, the big takeaway for what we're going to be talking about, and the reason you need to be very carefully listening to this. But first, some housekeeping announcements that you're probably very familiar with. The presentation is for informational purposes only. It's not legal advice. And of course, we're not affiliated with the Federal Trade Commission. However, if you'd like to discuss with me the possibility of an attorney-client relationship, you can send me an email, or you can set up an appointment through TimeTrade at ftcguardian.com/chip15, the number 15, 15. Again, .com/chip15. Okay, so let's get into this thing. What in the world is the jerk concept for marketing this online service? It was a type of reputation management sites, and there are different approaches to reputation management. This is just one of them. And the idea was to put up a website that had profile pages on it, yours and everyone else's, I guess, and then people could rate people by determining whether they were either a jerk or not a jerk. And if you found yourself rated as a jerk there by somebody else, you could pay $30 to get it removed. So that's really the idea. You could track your own pages and other people's pages, and you could vote jerk or not jerk, and then you could write anonymous reviews. And of course, the monetization of it was you had to pay money to remove negative reviews and to manage these disputes, which seems a little black hat to me. And of course, the FTC didn't like it either, as we'll see. So exactly what did they do? We've seen the concept in the preceding slide, but how did they put it all together? And what did they do? And really what happened when consumers encountered the website? And this is, you need to listen carefully about this. So the entrepreneur basically scraped a lot of these names and photographs from Facebook, posted 85,000 profiles on the website, pre-populated them. They were not added by the people. These names, photographs were scraped from Facebook and then pre-populated and added. Other content as well was added. And then the entrepreneur sprinkled around a few derogatory posts, right? And then some consumers found these things when they would do searches on their own name on the internet, a Google search on the name, and all of a sudden you'd see things you might expect, and then you would see a derogatory post on the jerk.com site, and it caused a lot of concern among consumers regarding their reputation and their personal safety. They didn't really understand what was going on. They didn't know why people were calling them a jerk. They didn't like the fact they were being pointed out with their name and photograph and all of that sort of thing. So that's what happened. That's the conduct. And next we see, what did the FTC have to say about it? Well, the FTC started saying that the 85,000 pre-populated profiles appeared to be and were made to appear to be, quote, user generated and not, pre-populated based on scraped information. There was a disclaimer in their terms of service that says that users were responsible for the content posted. There were some other representations as well, and you can see in the third asterisk here, or third bullet, all of those comments, some of which were disclaimers, contributed to an overall net impression that these profiles were user generated, or otherwise known by the acronym UGC, when in fact they were not. And the net impression, again, according to the Federal Trade Commission, influenced consumers to pay $30 to remove the negative posts. And there was some misrepresentations there that, you didn't have to pay in order to remove the post, but that was not true. You did have to pay. And then there were a couple of people that were like detectives hired by some disgruntled consumers who went in there and paid the $30 to have a jerk review removed, and they were not removed. And so if you ask me, I think that last one where they actually did what the site requested, which was to pay $30 for removal, and it didn't get removed, that was the straw that broke the camel's back as far as the FTC was concerned. I think maybe if the review had been removed as represented based on the payment, it's probably a close case about whether the FTC would have nailed them for a deceptive marketing practice based on the net impression. But when you take the net impression issues, which the FTC influenced people to pay, and then when some paid but it wasn't removed, then the FTC says, deceptive practice, we're going to sue you, and they did. So here are the takeaways from this case. Don't be clever to a fault. In other words, don't start creating the impression that something is correct when it isn't, particularly when that impression may very well lead people to buy something. And these statements that cleverly create this impression, when taken together, form what the FTC says is a net impression, the overall impression of what is going on the website. And that impression, of course, has to be material in influencing a consumer to pay money, right? So that's another big takeaway. And obviously, you need to deliver the benefits you promise. If you don't do that, then it's very deceptive, obviously. And the whole idea of having negative reviews and a website based solely on them is a very risky proposition, because you have people wanting to sue for defamation. You have all sorts of things like that. And I think the FTC was influenced by the fact that consumers came forward and provided complaints and said that they were concerned about their reputations and their personal safety. So when you start, influencing consumers with less than completely honest and straightforward statements, leading them to buy, or causing fear about safety. Hello? Causing fear about safety or their reputation, then I think that you're going too far, and you should expect the FTC to take some action. And then finally, you're just not going to win regarding the FTC. And this guy litigated this claim and lost. So it's another case. I have yet to see a case be litigated with the FTC in the area of on the issue of a deceptive marketing practice and win. I'm not aware of anyone who's ever litigated and won. Very few actually win. So in conclusion, here are the two tags that you can search in the members area in order to see the replay video that I'm going to put up tomorrow morning: deceptive ad and net impression. Those are the two tags. So that concludes the presentation. And I'm going to go back to, if I can, I'm going to go back to my screen here and also ask Alan, do we have any?
Would you think of software that proposes to fetch content from unlimited sites, including UGC from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, with the claim their user-generated content is now yours? What's the dangers for your business using the software like this?
Well, I think there are at least two issues.
Basically, scraping.
Yeah, I think the first question is the material that you're scraping legal? And I sort of anticipated that. And let me just give you sort of a bottom line answer. There is no very specific bright line answer here. It's a gray area right now. It's an unsettled area. There have been attempts by various platforms to, develop law in the case in the situation where they've been scraped and they want to stop it, and they litigate. One of the big cases or series of cases was Craigslist. Craigslist filed a lawsuit a few years ago on about 5 different theories: copyright infringement, contract breach, and a violation of a federal statute known as the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, also a trespass theory. So they aggregated every conceivable claim possible. So a lot of it depends on what it is you're taking. There are certain things that are not copyrightable. They're not protected by copyright. Bare data, so a list of company names, list of product names, that sort of thing. That is data, and the data itself is not protected. However, the way a website may have selected, arranged, and coordinated it might be a copyright in the form of what is known as a compilation copyright. But the bare data, if you scrape that data and then aggregate it with other data, you're taking data that is not protected by copyright. But then you have the issue is, what about the terms of service or terms of use? Is there a prohibition against scraping? Is there a robots.txt indication in the code on the website, on the home page, which is an indication indication to a robot that scraping is not permitted or authorized? And then how are you going to use it? Are you using it for something that might qualify as a fair use, even if it is protected by copyright, or if it's a profit-making use, maybe and probably not a fair use? So there are a lot of different issues and approaches, and there are any number of theories that a plaintiff can use to bring a lawsuit. So the bottom line again is it is not well settled. It is something that's probably going to take a while to be settled. There is a certain amount of risk involved in it, but if you take certain steps to maybe isolate data that you believe is not protected by copyright, which is essentially data itself, and you use it for certain purposes that are not going to be offensive or certainly not in violation of a contract or a robots.txt file, you're probably going to be okay. But there's no way to state definitively that it's legal or not. So that's the big question, and I think the rest of it sort of flows from there. Maybe we'll have a hangout on that entire issue and some other related issues, maybe after the first of the year, because we've got a whole series of excellent topics lined up, I think, that'll take us through December of this year. So how is that answer for a non-answer?
Yeah, well, Lauren is asking. Lauren asked the last question, and now she's posting, or I say she, maybe he. Lauren is posting another question or follow-up to it, and I think I understand where she's going. I could be off, but back in the day, we would post articles, right? A lot of articles.
Yeah.
Back when writing articles was king, you know. And we would scrape articles and then spin them for content.
And what do you mean?
Somebody's already written the article, and then we spin the article, changing out words, changing out keywords with our keywords, and so they get very similar keywords. So it looks like the same article, but it's not quite the same article. But I mean, today I see that I see it as being somewhat illegal. I mean, it's.
Well, let me answer it. I'm the attorney. I'd say it's very definitely copyright infringement if that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you're reading an article or a series of articles, maybe on the same topic or related topics, and you're doing research, right? And then you take the ideas from these articles, and ideas are not protected by copyright, just the expression of an idea. So if you do research and then use those ideas to create an original article of your own and then add your own keywords, that's fine. But to do exactly what Alan described, which is, copy the thing, first of all, questionable, and then spin it the way it was described, clearly copyright infringement.
Yeah.
No question about it.
She just posted that's exactly what it does. And Lauren, I mean, I used to do that back in the day. I can't even tell you how many article sites I had, because it was all back in the day when I did a lot of AdSense. So we posted articles, did AdSense, and all that kind of stuff. But then I kind of saw the writing on the wall, right? It was like, one, I could tell it was becoming illegal. It may have already been illegal, but it was becoming more dangerous. Let's call it that. It's becoming more dangerous. And and Google was, I wasn't making the money that I was making. You go from making a lot of money to not making a lot of money doing it, and it's just not worth the time and effort anymore. But yeah, so I would stay away from things like that. These days you can have articles, good articles written, from others. And the other thing you can do that we do a lot is, you can pull in other people's articles as long as you give the person credit for it and stuff like that. You can still use other people's articles and other people's works, giving them credit and then sending them back to that site, for to read the full article.
Yeah.
So,
but let me give you a caveat or two about using somebody's articles. What Alan really is talking about is article curation, where you might have the first 4 or 5 lines or the first lead paragraph, maybe 2 or 3 lines, actually posted on your website, and then the link back to the website that's the original author and publisher of the article. And the idea is that you've only taken the lead paragraph which is supposed to describe what the article is about, right? You've taken that, but it's not enough it's basically a fair use. And we've got a lot of material in the members area on fair use. All you have to do is go in there and search fair use, and you'll probably see about 5 or 6 different hits. I think, yeah, several different things. So curation, as long as you don't take too much, you just take a little bit and then you link it back. That's generally done on a lot of different websites today. So as long as you don't take too much, you're going to be fine on the fair use generally.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Okay, that's all we have.
Very well indeed. We certainly appreciate your attendance, and for those 2 or 3 of you who, Norman and Phil, who got in here early and watched us set up, we appreciate your assistance. You answered a few questions for us, and we appreciate that. So with that, I'll say good evening. Everyone have a very good evening, and we'll see you probably in about 2 weeks for the first Hangout in the month of October. Good night, everyone.
Good night.